Hi, this is Tracie DeMars of the ReMax Equity Group, and today is Tuesday's Tips on an actual Tuesday. So, yay me for being on time this week. We're going to talk a little bit about renting versus mortgage, and not just the obvious, hey, rent's bad, mortgage is good, because there's pros and cons to both. But also about how rent's paid versus how mortgage is paid, and how that kind of ties into closing dates and when your first mortgage payments due. So, let's talk real quick about renting. Pros of renting: you're not responsible. And I'm not saying that you're not responsible, but renting's a lot like dating. Okay. It's much easier to move on to the next rental. It's much easier to, you're not tied down to any particular home. Okay. The obvious other pros, fact, besides the fact you hate your neighbor, you can get up and leave, but you're not also responsible for if something breaks down or if the home needs a new roof or a new siding. It's like dating. There's a little bit less responsibility. You're just kind of, hey, is this, where do I want to go from here? All right. The cons of, renting are, as mortgage, rent can go up as whenever they want. You are paying somebody else's mortgage. Whether you are renting from a private owner or you're renting from a corporation, you are paying their mortgage. You can't just paint the walls. You can't just get a pet when you want. If your kid, busts a hole in the wall or something, there's that concern. And I think one of the biggest cons, and I understand it, but I think for me, one of the biggest cons of renting, why I don't think I could ever do it, is the fact that they can give you a call and say within 24 hours, they're going to come in and inspect the home. To me, that would be very intrusive because my home is kind of my, I go home, shut the door, and yay, leave me alone. I love home. Everybody loves home. Home is the best. That's why I do what I do. Now, there's pros and cons about buying a home as well. The pro about buying a home is your mortgage. You are investing in your future. Okay. And there's nothing as strong as investment as buying real estate besides investing in yourself, which is kind of the same. Always invest in yourself. All right. The pros: if you want to paint your walls, you can paint your walls whatever color you want. If you want to get a pet, you can. If your kid, hits a hole in the wall, you're not stressing out what your landlord's going to say. The cons of owning a home is the fact if something breaks down, it's your responsibility. If it needs a new roof, it's your responsibility. If you hate your neighbors, well, you're kind of tied to that home just like they are. Owning a home is not like being married to that home. Renting a home is like dating the home. So that's pretty easy, right? Pros and cons. Now let's talk about how rent works. Now you know how rent works. Rent is due on the 1st, and you get a late fee if you don't pay by the 5th. Okay. But when you pay your October rent, you paid from the month of October 1st to the October 31st. You're paying in advance. You're saying, hey, I want to live here for this month. I'm paying you rent for this month to live here. Now, mortgage is a little bit different. Okay. So let's talk about, all right. With rent, you pay in advance. We get that. With mortgage is a little bit different. Okay, when I paid my mortgage is due on October 1st, and I don't get a late fee until October 15th. Okay, so you have a little bit more time if you need it, which sometimes we all do. But here's the lovely thing. I'm not paying for what I haven't accrued. So my mortgage is due on the 1st, but it's not for that upcoming month. It's for the month that just passed. So if I paid my mortgage on October 1st, it was actually for the month of September. Okay. With rent, you pay forward. With mortgage, you pay backwards. All right. Why is this important? Because now we come down to a little thing called closing dates. You've decided you don't want to rent anymore and you want to tie down some roots and you want to invest and pay your own mortgage. Everybody loves the idea. Home is such a special place that it's important that we all have that place that's ours. All right. So you decide that you're going to go look at homes. We get you pre-approved. We're looking at homes. Let's talk about closing dates. Now, closing date is the day you get keys, not the day you sign. This is an HDV. You don't get keys when you sign. This is the day you get keys. This is the day that the home is recorded in your name. Okay. I have a client who is getting keys on November 4th. Yay! I actually have 2 clients who are getting keys on November 4th. It's very exciting. Now, as part of their closing costs, and we talked about closing costs already, they have to pay for 26 days of interest as part of their closing costs. Because remember, they're paying with the way that mortgage goes, you pay remember, backwards, right? All right, so we're paying for 26 days of interest as part of their closing costs, which brings them to the end of the month, which means their first mortgage payment's due on January 1st. So close November 4th, 26 days of interest, which brings them to the end of the month. The first mortgage payment's due January 1st for the month of December. This is pretty nifty because they're getting almost 2 months that they're not having to stress about mortgage yet. Okay? And especially this time of year, that's always nice. Now, I have another client who's getting keys on November 25th. So she's bringing in 5 days of interest as part of her closing costs. It takes us to November 30th. And her first mortgage payment's due still January 1st for the month of December. Okay, so her closing costs are going to be a little bit less at November 25th than my other clients who are closing on November 4th. Okay, it's not really that much of a difference. Really, the biggest difference is this: what happens on November 26th? Well, November 26th is Thanksgiving. So what happens if we need an extension or there's a delay of something? And I've got 3 clients right now who have delays on their closing and we can't close on time. Well, where are they going to live? Okay, so this is really important. I can't give you keys until it records. Okay, so what happens if she doesn't record on November 25th? Well, okay, hopefully we'll close on Monday or Tuesday and she just has a shorter period for moving. But what happens if we need a little bit extra time and takes us to the beginning of December? And she has to be out of her current place by the end of November, which she does. 5 days goes by really quick. So you get a little bit of less interest, a little bit less on the closing costs if you close toward the end of the month, but there's more of that, hey, what if scenario? Do you have some place to go, or can you stay at your current rental a little bit longer if something happens and we need to delay into the next month? Versus if you close in the first couple of weeks, yes, your interest, is a little bit higher. You have a little bit more interest. Your closing costs are a little bit higher. It's really not that much. But if something happens, we have a little bit more time before closing, and you have a little bit more time until your first mortgage payment. Something to consider. Again, talk about pros and cons when it comes up and you're making the offer. Now, if you have any other questions, please give me a call, 360-903-3504. You can always go to learningtobuyahome.com and for more information. And I'm going to try to do a blog this week on, what's in your payment. So if you need anything else, just give me a ring. Have a great day.